Breann McGregor.
If the grocery stores would completely shut down, we'd kill each other instead of go outside and grow food on an earth where there's an abundance of food, right? We are so fully, instead of coming together and sharing resources, we would loot each other, right? And I say we. I don't just mean this community over here, that community over there. Everyone would. This whole country is, the whole energy on the ground of the country is
desperate we get, and the more desperate people become, of course, it's going to be survival of the fittest, just like it was.
But see, and that's the thing. Survival of the fittest was the ideology. So,
well, I'm talking about way before that, when we had dinosaurs and before that, like, like a species didn't continue or whatnot because, their neck wasn't long enough to reach a tree, so that one died out. So I'm going back to that as far as the survival.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. In order to uphold an ideology, you have to understand our maps aren't even accurate to uphold an ideology of supremacy. There are things that when you really start understanding what's going on out here, the level of how we have been conditioned to maintain all these things that don't align with our hearts and our spirits, a difficult journey becomes worth it. Like my children, they have to get an education that is beyond our standard education, because our standard education upholds the system. They need to get an education of revolt. My kids, they will not be indoctrinated with a typical American education. They will be curated a curriculum that is geared towards the psychology of a Black child. It's the smartest thing to do. If I want to really change things out here, I have to question everything that seems rational, because all of this is irrational. So I literally have to question every little thing and then figure out how do I now be active about it, And I would not have been in this place if it wasn't for having to figure out how to help change the world from home.
And that's where I wanted to come. It's amazing how much COVID has allowed you to think about, not that you weren't, but to truly reflect and say, okay, Ashley, this is going to take a lot of work on your behalf. Like,
oh, yeah.
This is what I'm doing, but there needs to be more. And I think COVID it's really, allowed the true colors, which I believe you've known for all along, but it's also showed you just how there's almost this burden of that you have to be resilient. You have to come out strong, even though it's going to be tough.
You have to be brave. You have to, if you really want to change something, you have to be willing to change yourself as much as you want to change a whole system. You have to.
And it's scary because you may be alone, but you know what? It's worth it in the end.
Mm-hmm. It's worth it.
Yeah. It absolutely
it's worth it because I have these kids, so I would love for them to actually know what freedom is. Freedom is not something that you ask for. Freedom is not amendments to a constitution.
Freedom is equal to everyone and is allowed to everyone without having any question.
Freedom is just not having any fear. That's what freedom is to me. And I truly, I make my choices based off of how will this affect me personally? in terms of what I'm trying to attain. If I want to do something that doesn't affect me in a positive way in terms of where I'm trying to develop, I can't do it because it's bondage. So that's how I choose. That's how I even try to just cultivate my freedom throughout the day. So for example, okay, I used to smoke cigarettes years ago, right? So let's say I just really want a cigarette. Nothing wrong with a cigarette, right? I guess. No, there's plenty wrong with a cigarette. Why do I want to smoke a cigarette? Is it something that made me feel like I wanted to smoke a cigarette? Is it something that told me if I'm feeling a certain way, should I smoke this cigarette? I know it's harmful. I know it's killing me, taking like minutes off my life every time I smoke just one. What is it that is making me want to choose something like this that feels like a relief, but is actually really bad for me? It's an act of bondage to make choices like that because Philip Morris made me feel like that. That wasn't like a natural thing. It wasn't some sort of like ceremonial thing. It wasn't a ritual thing. It wasn't a communal thing. It's a dependency on a product. So let's say I choose then not to smoke a cigarette. I've chosen my freedom. I've chosen free will instead, right? So that's where I'm at. It is constant work. It is such good work. I started writing for a news source out here in Atlanta. Never thought I would do that in a million years. I've been developing a a TV show. It's for children, and I've written maybe 30 something records. It's all like emotional intelligence for children. I've been working on it for the past 2 years. So I'm in a space where I'm continuously working on that. I have my first investor. So I'm getting like everything done on the like season 1 end of that. So, you know, I'm helping out an organization in Miami where they're trying to change the prison to pipeline culture for these kids. And it's a juvenile detention center for boys. They turned half of it into an art gallery. These kids are like painting and doing photography and just all of these creative things, and have a very specific curriculum that's, I mean, really helping them a lot. I'm able to help just from being at home. I'm working with an organization out here that helps to teach people how to give and is very hands-on with meeting very specific, like detailed needs every day for people out here experiencing homelessness. I'm helping all of these things that I believe in while watching my 3 kids, while cooking all day, while I walk 8 miles in the morning, you know, and I'm just getting it all done.
That is amazing. Good for you.
I'm a little overwhelmed some days. Some days I think I've kind of done a little bit too much, but
at least you're aware of it. You know what I mean? Where you're like, yeah. Actually, you're aware. Do you know what I mean?
I am. It's a matter of time management too, you know.
Trust me.
But
I feel you on that one.
Yeah. But it's been even just a great lesson in I really can. Happiness isn't conditional.
It is
being
so
a person isn't conditional. Okay. Helping your neighbor isn't conditional. Doing what's right and what's good for all of us isn't conditional. You can be in a totally different environment. You can be in a dire circumstance and still make choices that are good, not because your circumstance is great, but because it doesn't have to, you don't need conditions to do the right
thing. You can also find peace within, even in a situation where you feel that most would be like, how? I don't understand. But because it resonates within you, and you've gotten to that place of where, okay, I'm at peace. And I will say, like you were saying, giving to others and helping others is such a freeing, that for me brings so much happiness. To see that I help someone else. I know that you have to help yourself, and you have to, it really starts from within.
It's harder work to help yourself. It is. It's great work to and it's hard work to help others.
Hard,
extremely hard work.
Yes, very much. I mean, but to actually know who you are, I'm really proud of you.
Oh,
you know,
thanks.
you've come so far in all the years I've known you, like very far, and in so many amazing ways, you know, and even with the organizations and all the different nonprofits that you're working with, through your work and your actions, those that are friends with you and that know you are learning from, are being helped, such as myself, even though I'm not in any of this, just by seeing you, because you are, at the end of the day, an example of what's right. And so, and I know that in my heart. So I like to, you know.
Really sweet of you. I am very human, and I've felt my whole life that, I mean, I have said since I was a child, like, wow, we really have this wrong. Something's wrong here. We're doing this all wrong. I've said that since I was a kid, and I've just maintained that throughout my life. And I had to work really hard against self-destructive ways. I had to work really hard to,
I think you had to work
come
really
to a
hard
place,
because you're African American. So something that would be easy for someone else, for you to be able to speak your truth, and for you to be able to come as far as you have to help as much, like as many as you have, girl, you have conquered so much, and you give, it's inspiring. It gives people,
well,
it gives me
actually,
hope.
to be perfectly honest with you, it's actually very typical. This is what Black people do. We are tenacious as hell. We are survivors. We are overcomers. This is what it is. You know,
you're resilient. Your culture is
Seriously.
they've proved it over and over again.
Well, I'm just in a place finally where I feel like I'm finally one step closer to understanding what it really is to be human. And it couldn't be at a better time, because I have these children. You know, my husband and I are very adamant about our culture and our home being a culture of truth. So that might not be like the easiest things, that might not align with Easter bunnies and Santa Clauses and, you know, all these things that we culturally just, we're just going to do this. And we're really
nothing wrong with that.
Really let's teach these kids truth.
Yeah, and it's what works for you guys.
It out from there.
Absolutely. I mean, and there's no wrong or right way. So for anyone like, how could you not do that? Well, that's my choice. I respect your opinion and how you would like to raise your child. However, this is my opinion. This is my family, and it should be a communal thing where, okay, much respect for that. No one should tell us how to do anything. Again, that's where there is no freedom, that we have to do things a certain way, and that, like you've been.
And it's not, and you have to question it all, because the only reason why things are how they are is because we are not questioning what's rational or not.
Right.
We're just not questioning it. And also because they've created a system where if you don't get a certain amount of accreditations, then you don't get this, or you don't get that. So yes, throw your kid into school, a public school, private school. You don't even question whether that curriculum is good for our society. You just want to make sure that they'll be able to then get into a college and then be in debt for the majority.
Because that's what is expected.
Because it's what's expected, and you don't question if it's rational or not. The fact that we scream about I went to school for 4 years and now I'm $100,000 in debt and I can only get a $40,000 job. The fact that it's not like, guys, that's not rational. It's not rational. We cannot keep thinking that these things are normal and rational. They're not.
And where does it come down to at the end of the day, too? Who's wanting all of this money?
People who get most of the money from it.
Exactly. I mean, it goes right back up to the people who have formed this.
And what that proves to you is this: a small group of people can make a big difference. So
I do
think about a small group of people that are managing all of this. That's where I get the strength of it does not take millions of people to spark change. Mm-hmm. It really honestly doesn't. A small group of people can do much more than we realize, much more. But what we have to do is fight against all the ways that our power is dismantled.
Right. I do feel like, for instance, for myself, I find that it's very hard to come forward because I feel there's a resistance and it's like you're being suppressed. You know, you're damned if you do, if you come out. And that's where it's like, Breann, where's your truth? Where do you stand? You know, and at the end of the day, you're going to lose people, you know, that you thought were friends or, you know, but at the end of the day, that's what you stand for. And those who love you and don't expect you to be anything else but who you are and respect you because at the end of the day, you share the same beliefs that everyone should be equal or, you know, that
right.
That's
things are supposed to change, right? So there are people in your life for certain seasons. You learn what you need to. It's cyclical. There are people who were in your life. I have people in my life right now where we were friends as kids and suddenly we're just back in each other's lives and it's wonderful.
Yeah,
you know,
you pick up where you left started.
All for a reason. So if you are in a position where you are able to share resources, you're able to help people, do it. You do not want to be the person begging for help and everybody shuts their door. So everybody really has to, in my opinion, everybody really has to strip what we're used to and think of this in a different way if we're going to get through this on top.